Atma Namaste, welcome to the session. So, we were to start the new section called Sacred Sex. So, it's a little mystifying. How can sex be sacred? I think as we go into this chapter, we will understand how and why. So, there is a sutra here: orgasm is the closest thing to bliss that an ordinary person can have. Yeah. By the way, Merry Christmas. Best wishes on the occasion of Christmas to everybody. I hope our lives are blessed by the divine light of Lord Christ. Yeah. All right. So when Master says orgasm is the closest thing to bliss that an ordinary person can have, of course, he's not talking about spiritual people because, in meditation, sometimes you can have experiences of bliss that are longer lasting and much deeper than during orgasm. But if you have experienced an orgasm, you know that, during the orgasm, the bliss is there. Although it is temporary, it may last for a few minutes, it may last for a few hours, but it certainly isn't permanent. Whereas the bliss that comes from spirituality, from meditation, and so on, that tends to be much deeper and much longer lasting. All right, let's turn the page. We are on page 53 now. Let's start from the top. Sex is natural. Now, many meanings of this word natural, or many ways to understand this. One way to understand is that, nature has already given us the sexual instinct. We don't need to go to a school or to a, institute and learn to acquire the urge or the sexual instinct. It is already there. Everyone, even the people who have not gone to school or college or who are completely uneducated, they have the sexual urge, they have the sexual instinct. So it's more like an instinct. So that is why Master, I think he could have as well said sex is instinctive, but he's chosen to use the word natural. I think another context why he's saying natural is because he's trying to tell us that there is nothing bad, nothing wrong about it. It is very, like, sometimes you say, oh, it's very natural. So it is natural in that regard. There is nothing, uh, somebody is having, the desire for sex, there is nothing abnormal. It is very normal, it is very natural. And also, I think one way to understand that is it is a rule of nature, it is a law, it is an aspect of nature, because that is required for the human race to continue. Without sex, without, sex is our way of reproduction for the human species. So without that, the human race will not survive. By the way, an interesting thing I remember either reading or hearing, that, as these artificial methods of reproduction, IVF and so on, genetic engineering and IVF and all that is coming up, it is forecast that in a few hundred years, the sex chakra will become a minor chakra, and the human race will no longer need to have sex to reproduce. These artificial methods will take over. That is, at least that is the prediction. All right, let's go on. In sacred sex, now there is a postscript there. There is a physical side, energy side, emotional side, and spiritual side. So let's go back of the book, page 75. This is the superscript says 70, number 5. So if you read here on page 75, a strong, healthy sex chakra is needed for spiritual development. Sex energy can be transmuted into love and spiritual oneness. Sex is sacred. Now, this quote is taken from The Spiritual Essence of Man, page 138. The concept of spiritual sex is discussed more deeply in the Arhatic Sexual Alchemy course. For more information, please get in touch with your local pranic healing center. So there is a course called Sexual Alchemy, and this is it. That course, I am told, I haven't done the course, but I am told that that course is about how to use the sex energy to for spiritual development, and as a way, alchemy, you understand, convert something lower, grosser, into something more refined, into something higher. So that is what I believe that course teaches. I have not done it. Actually, it is not conducted in India. So I have not been able to, unfortunately, fortunately, unfortunately, I have not been able to do it. Sometime I hope that I come to know of it being conducted outside India, and if I can afford it and it is possible, I would like to go and attend that. I don't know if any of you have attended the sexual alchemy course. So, Master says there is the physical side, the energy side, the emotional side, and spiritual side. So, of course, the act of sex is physical. I mean, there is physical active action involved. There is the exchange of bodily fluids. That is all at the physical level. And, in the purely physical level, this is driven by the sexual urge, or you can say by the sex chakra. So, that is how the animals also do it, right? But when we talk about humans, then the emotional side. Now, when we talk about the energy side or the etheric side, the etheric side of sex, then we are talking about that many other chakras are involved. For example, the basic chakra. I remember healing somebody for lack of sexual drive. That person had sexual frigidity. So there I read the protocol. The basic chakra also needs to be worked upon, including solar and this, that, and so on. So many chakras are involved in the sexual act. And sex energy, which we will talk about in the next few sutras, sex energy is involved at the energy level. Then emotionally, ladies, women can relate to it more. There is the physical side and there is the emotional side, which we can express as love or intimacy. It becomes an expression for intimacy and expression of love, deep love for somebody when you have sex with that person. And last but the most important, the spiritual side. Now, what does it mean? That is where, when the spiritual side gets involved, that is when it becomes a sacred act. That is when the sex becomes sacred. There is the normal sex, which is not sacred or may not be sacred. And then there is the sacred sex where spirituality becomes involved. And later sutras again will tell us, this is where these the sacred sex can lead to divine union with the partner, where your crown chakra now becomes involved. You see, physically, the sex chakra, the, basic chakra and so on. Then emotionally, your heart chakra. And now, when we talk about the spiritual aspect, then the crown chakra. I hope you don't feel squeamish. We have to treat sex as a part of nature, and it is important. I mean, we are lucky to be in the school of Master Choa, where he is not squeamish about talking about sex. He's very frank and upfront, or very. He doesn't try to hide it under something. He is very forthright in talking about sex. All right. Sutra number 3. When you talk about sex, you are talking about sexual energy. Again, there is a postscript. Let's go to page 75. This is number 6. So the sutra said, when you talk about sex, you are talking about sexual energy. So the postscript here leads to sexual energy, sex energy in brackets, when transmuted, serves as food for the higher centers. When this happens, the person becomes more intelligent and spiritual. Yeah. So when we are talking about, the sex energy is what gives the desire, the drive, the sex drive. It is what leads to the act of sex. If your sex energy is very low, you may not have the desire, it may not lead to the act of sex. Yeah. So, and then we get a hint that this energy is necessary for intelligence and for spiritual development. Let's read on. When a person has a sexual puritanical attitude, the sex energy is suppressed. So when the person feels that sex is bad, it creates more problems. it cannot move up to the crown. It cannot be transformed to spiritual energy. Again, there is a postscript, but it just talks about the crown chakra. And since all of us are pranic healers, I won't go and read that. If you want, you can go and read that. Now, the word puritanical, this comes from some centuries ago, where Christianity was, or the Western world was dominated by what were called the Puritans. And the Puritans had a very, very strict approach or attitude, and a very negative attitude towards enjoyment of life, especially, sex, their bodies, and so on. They thought that these were all bad or sinful or dirty. So that created a lot of problems in society. And you see, always what happens is, have you sometimes just please study the diagram of yin and yang. What it is also tells you is that if one will increase, then the other will rebound. It will also increase. So that is what happened in the Western world, because of the puritanical influence, where they said no, sex is bad, don't have sex, and so on, except for reproduction, don't have sex. So now you see in the West, they have gone to the other extreme. From one extreme, puritanical, they have gone to, to some extent, to excessiveness in sex. So that is what usually tends to happen. So this is related to Sutra number 2. The second part of this, where master talks about sex energy can move up to the crown, or it cannot, because so normally it is supposed to go up to the crown chakra. If it goes to the crown chakra, two things will happen. Number one, our brain gets developed, and number two, we get more spiritual energy. Yes. So as the crown chakra becomes bigger, you see, if more sex energy goes, it activates the crown chakra. When that is more activated, there is more downpour of divine energy. You remember, crown chakra is the gateway of divine energy. So more divine energy comes down, and that leads to more spiritual energy in the aura. So that is what this chakra is telling us. It is telling us, don't have this attitude where you think that sex is bad. You should not, you should not think about it. You should not, indulge in it, etc., etc. That attitude is wrong. And what happens if you have that attitude? This sex energy cannot rise up. So it inhibits the development of the brain. It blocks the downpour of divine energy. You see, all attitudes that are against nature, they will have the same sort of problem. All right, let's move on. Women are naturally tantric unless they are psychologically deformed by culture or religion. Now, honestly, I really cannot say exactly what Master is trying to tell us here. So I put it out in my Arhatic practitioners group. I said, who if somebody has some ideas on what Master is trying to tell us, I got some ideas. One thing, or my thought, I'll share with you my thought. So I went into the etymology of the word tantra. So it is tan plus tra, like, mantra is man plus tra. And yantra, have you heard the word yantra? It means an instrument, or, what you use to achieve something. So it is yan plus tra. So apparently, the tra means the instrument of utilization or instrument of development. So yantra means an external object which we use for some purpose. Mantra means where we use the mind for some purpose. And tantra seems to be where we use the body, or we train the body, or we use the body for spiritual progress. There is the Tantra Yoga, if you have heard of it. So this, what we can, my guess here is that what Master is trying to tell us is that women naturally or instinctively know how to use their body, in the context of sex, for spiritual development. But unfortunately, cultures and religions, like the puritanical culture, they tend to deform. Deform means corrupt or inhibit or limit this natural ability. So otherwise, women apparently, and I see a lot of women in the group today. So you can tell me if this is accurate. This is my understanding. Uh, I don't have a, I cannot be very confident of this understanding, but this is what made sense to me. That tantra, the word tantra here means using or training the body for some purpose. And the purpose obviously is spiritual progress. So that is what I thought it means. All right, let's move on. Sutra number 6. Whether you are celibate or not, it's your choice. You must have healthy attitude towards sex. So being celibate means you decide not to have sex. Now it may be for a period of time or it may be for lifetime. It's up to you. Now what master is saying is it is your choice. What he's saying is both choices are okay. You say, okay, in my life I will not have sex. That is okay. You say, no, I will indulge in sex. That is also okay, as long as it is based on the healthy attitude where you say sex is natural, sex is healthy, nothing wrong with sex. You should not have the attitude that sex is bad or dirty or it is a sin, etc., etc. Because if you have that, then the next sutra will tell us the energy obviously means sex energy, is automatically circulating if you have a natural attitude. If you have a guilty attitude, or guilty you can say is like a negative attitude towards sex. If you have a guilty attitude, it gets stuck. What gets stuck? Sex energy gets stuck and you get obsessive. Obsessive about what? Obsessive about sex. You see, if you have done the psychotherapy class or if you can read the book on psychotherapy, pranic psychotherapy, their master explains the navel chakra, if it is dirty and not functioning properly, the upward flow of sex energy to the higher chakras gets blocked. So what happens is sex chakra becomes overactivated. Now you see, your personality is determined by your most powerful chakra. Please make a note of this. I'm giving you like a rule. Your personality is determined by your most powerful chakra. If you are having a bad, wrong, incorrect, guilty, or negative attitude towards sex, the sex energy will get stuck in the sex chakra. The sex chakra will keep getting bigger. If it gets too big, it will dominate your personality. You know, in India, many of the so called, I'm using this to show quotation marks, saints, they are now in jail for sexual misconduct. Why? Because for some because they did not do sufficient purification or whatever reason, the fact is the sex energy got stuck in their lower chakras, in the sex chakra, and they became obsessed, and that obsession led them to commit crimes. The crimes got caught, they were put into jail. So the thing to do, the lesson here is avoid the guilty or wrong attitude towards sex. Okay, shall we do one more sutra, please? Next page, page 54. Look at sex realistically and in a light mood. Sexual energy is needed to upgrade your brain cells. Sex, sweetness, and intimacy are good, but you must also have a functional brain. So when I think realistically, you can see in the context of naturally. And light mood means it is something to be enjoyed, and you should not you should not overthink it, not, not get negative or guilt filled about it. Don't think too much about it. Simple. And now here master is telling us that sex energy is needed to upgrade your brain cells apart from activating your crown chakra. So, if you are doing the super brain yoga, to some extent, that is what you're doing. When you do that practice, the energy from the lower chakra, especially the sex chakra, is taken up to the brain in a manner where it is transmuted. It gets converted into subtler, more subtle vibrations and appropriate for the brain. And in the psychotherapy class, we learned the transmutation of sex energy technique. I think also in the soul class it is taught. So if you have done either of these courses, you will know about the transmutation of sex energy technique. that also does the same thing, but that you're doing consciously. What helps is having the right, the proper, the realistic, the positive attitude, or the attitude that sex is natural, sex is healthy, nothing wrong with sex. You may choose, like in one of the previous sutras, master said, you may choose. You say, okay, I choose not to have sex in my life. Your choice, nothing wrong with it. You choose to have sex in your life. Most of us maybe in domestic life, family life, we have sex. It's fine. That is also, that choice is also fine, as long as the attitude is that there is nothing wrong with sex. Sex is natural and it is healthy.